you're still here. Lovely wife, Kay, and they're here to share their secrets about making it work. You're still together.
Yeah,
okay.
we made it.
You made it today. But we know, and thank you for being on with us.
It's an honor.
But you know, Kay, when we were reading about this and, you know, what makes marriage work and so forth, you weren't even sure you wanted to marry him. When you walked down the aisle, you weren't sure.
Yeah,
Isn't
that was
dangerous?
a little scary. Yeah, and it was pretty scary, too. I kept saying, okay, any minute now, any minute, I'm going to feel the feelings. And
you didn't.
I didn't, but when we got married, we didn't know each other.
But so you don't recommend this?
I do not recommend. We never. Well, they know now.
But even afterwards, though, after you married him, you know, Pastor Rick, he wasn't even sure that you really liked him.
Well, that's, yeah. See, we're so different. Here's Rick, here's Kay, and everything in between is what we argue about. So we're just so different.
I'm way over the line. She's
yeah. Well, he's an extrovert.
Yeah. So many people, so many couples cheat. How do you resist temptation?
Well, and then I just kind of fell out of love as if you had no choice. No, you chose. You chose to stop. It's an emotional decision, but it is definitely a choice. I choose to love my wife every day.
Even though we had a rocky start, we fully intended to grow old. Our intention, and that stays our intention every day.
Actually, we said we locked the escape hatch and threw away the key, and we said we're going to make this marriage work if it kills us. It nearly did.
But, you know, one of the things that can destroy a marriage is when there is a terrible trauma, when there's a tragedy. And you had this in your family. We'll talk about it later, but you had a son who committed suicide. Did these wonderful parents in a marriage?
Well, we have spent nearly 40 years putting our roots down deep into our relationship. No, we didn't want to be a statistic, and it does, and sometimes it does. But we are actually closer today.
As we decided on that was whatever out of her emotions, she wasn't going to try to talk me out of mine. So whatever she's feeling, if she's angry, I get angry, you know, over the same things. If she feels sad, if I feel sad, we would enter in. It's just showing a lot of grace to each other.
When you talk about, because I agree, marriage is work, and, you know, to keep it going, when you talk about it to the audience, you know, it was blood, sweat, and tears, and we're going to make it work if it killed us, and we didn't. Then when people look at it and go, but then, gosh, why the hell should I get married if it's this bad?
It's worth it. It's worth it, Sherri.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Then what is worth it about all of the blood, sweat, and tears?
Intimacy.
And there's a lot of blood on the ground. Well, there's something that we've learned along the way in all the marriage counseling and therapy that we have done. By the way, we've paid dearly for our marriage.
Yeah, I was going to do a card.
Completely believe in
MasterCard saved my marriage. we were making a counseling bill, and I should say, marriage priceless.
What was your biggest issues? We're so different. I mean, he's an extrovert. I'm an introvert. Yeah. He's a risk taker. I'm risk avoidant. Yeah. He's the fun meister. I am very practical. Somebody's got to plug in the coffee pot. Yeah. I mean, he is a dreamer. I'm a pragmatist. Just literally, our personalities are so different.
You talked about DNA earlier.
Your dialogue. I'm getting signals that say, you'll stay with us, and then you can ask your question. Okay, we'll come right back.
Sarah McLachlan's performing her latest hit on our stage later.
We are back with Pastor Rick Warren and his wife Kay. LaTanya, I wanted to throw to you. You had a question before we left.
Quickly, I'm in one of those multi-decade marriages as well, and everybody always asks, what's the secret? And I always say that there is no secret, but there is a dialogue, an inner dialogue. I mean, I talk to myself to get out the bed. So what's your inner dialogue that you're telling yourself in the situation?
Well, there's a lot of secrets. Have yourself and each other.
Yeah.
Well, and we learned what I started to say a few minutes ago in the therapy that we've been to is about the tunnel of chaos. And to get to intimacy, you have to go through the tunnel of chaos. And so many people aren't willing to. Their differences tear them apart. And instead of staying, we have gone through the tunnel of chaos. And on the other side of that has come an intimacy that makes it worth it to stay together. To stay together as the blood is on. And I don't mean literal blood. I don't mean that. I just mean the effort that it's takes. Since we are so different.
When people say, I don't have the money to afford counseling, I say, well, how much is your happiness worth? I'd pay $1 million for what I've got today.
Right.
This is my best friend.
Well, speaking of okay being your best friend, because she had to be your best friend, because you went through every parent's worst nightmare. You were talking about it. Your son Matthew, he committed suicide at the...
Well, he just, from the time he was figure out.
He suffered from depression.
Yeah, by this time he was 7, he was clinically depressed. And then they started adding all the other initials, you know, ADHD, BB. Right. But the thing that we didn't understand about him was that he had borderline personality disorder, and that would have made such a difference to have known that that was a part of what he was struggling with.
You know, when something this awful happens, parents sometimes, no matter what, blame themselves. Did you go through this?
Well, I think anytime there's grief, there's...
Second-guessing, definitely.
Yeah, second-guessing. And especially, I think, when there's a suicide, there's recriminations, there's the idea of, should we have done this? What if we had done this? Maybe we should have tried that doctor. What if I had said this or that? And
how do you get over it? How do you forgive yourself?
Well, if love could keep Matthew alive, he'd be alive today. Make it in life, he had it all, and he knew anything of it. If my liver stops working and I take a pill, what's wrong with that?
Right.
Your illness is not your identity, and your character is not your chemistry.
And you know, well said. I didn't know the statistics. 1 in 4 adults suffer from some form of mental illness, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and you are now going to make this your crusade.
Yeah.
How do you plan on doing that?
Okay.
well, we feel, since the place that we have the most influence is in the world of the faith community, that's where we would start. And so for us to make sure that the message gets out that anyone who's struggling with mental illness is welcomed and embraced in communities of faith. Sorry, you want to keep going? Okay. Also that family members receive the support, because we didn't get all the support we needed. And then to be advocates for the very broken mental health system that exists in the United States.
Now, quick question for you. What do you say to... A lot of Christian people feel that depression is because you don't have enough faith. That if you take medication, it's because you don't have enough faith.
Pray harder.
That if you don't pray, you need to pray harder. What do you say to them when you say...
Relationships.
Pastor, thank you so much. We want to thank Pastor Rick Warren and his wife, Kay. We'll be right back with Sarah McLaughlin.